Today is Saturday, March 16th, 2024. Welcome to the Survivor Fans Podcast. I'm Joanne.
And I'm Stacy.
And this is the listener feedback show for Survivor 46, Week 3.
That's right. 2 shows a week. We do a recap right after the episode airs. And then on Saturdays, we hand it over to the superfans. We take calls. Folks send in emails. We'll be reading them into the show on their behalf. Sometimes they record their own audio. That's usually how you get your best quality. So put all that together and we get our listener feedback show. Thoughts about the most recent episode, how the season overall is going, and hopefully, fingers crossed, some predictions to help us in the fantasy league picks that we got to make before the episode airs on Wednesday. Need to come up with four folks that are going to be safe, and then the one person who's going to be voted out. Of course, this past episode, they pulled the rug out from under us, and we had a medical evacuation. Nobody was voted out.
You know, something I wondered about was, I wonder how many different theories about what's going to happen on any particular episode are out there. Because you and I both had a completely different scenario for, for the same thing. I mean, we picked the same person and the same
got there
tribe,
in a different way.
But got there completely in a different way.
Yeah, that's the beauty of having the listener feedback show too, is we get people coming at this from all different walks of life, different experiences, different experience levels. Some people have seen a lot more than others.
That's true.
Sometimes that fresh perspective is what you need, though. Someone who hasn't seen as much.
Yeah, because I'll hear somebody say something that's like, that never even entered my mind.
Right, yeah. That's all part of the beauty of the listener feedback show.
For us to have such widely varied ideas in our head, just between us.
Yeah, and to think for years and years we did this on our own. When we would watch, we were just all the time talking, and then the technology came about back in 2004, and right towards the end of 2004, this thing about RSS feeds, and then the ability to create podcasts like this, to have subscriptions and to have them picked up automatically when a new one was available. All that became possible. And then early 2005, we're like, let's do a reaction show and see where this goes. And we've been going ever since.
And I just said, sure, honey, whatever you want.
So we're already...
I don't know what a podcast is, but okay, sure.
But we're already talking about this show nonstop. We're just completely enamored with it.
Well, I went into it thinking, well, nobody's going to listen anyway, so what do I care? I don't care how I sound. I don't care, because nobody's going to listen to this.
And right out of the gate, we started getting feedback, and we had the nexus and I realized, we need another episode per week. We need a listener feedback show. So, yeah.
Well, once we realized people had so much, we get the emails and they have so much to say. It's like, well, let's provide something so we can hear what they all have to say.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's how this came about, and we still enjoy it very much.
Yes, find it very enriching, and I think it's helped my perspective, helped me think about the human condition in different ways, and has helped change it.
Wow.
She's always telling me I'm hard-headed and I don't consider other things and don't change my mind. Anyway, it has had an impact on me personally.
It does happen occasionally.
For that, I'm very grateful. How many super fans reached out this week?
25.
25, yeah. I think there's definitely some things that happened in this episode that sparked responses. In particular, one person in particular has sparked a variety of responses. So maybe that's what they were going for. Well, let's talk some more about it. Who's up first?
We got a call from Pete.
Hey, Joanne and Stacy. This is Pete from Boston calling here. Oh, man. You know, we hate seeing medically evacuations and not seeing tribal, but I guess it's better than a quitter, though, for sure, which Brandyn was anything but. But I'm still going to let out a great big woo! And I must say, Banu and, well, I guess maybe more so Kenzie, who knows. Purple, nevertheless, luckiest team right now. The Loserville team, they can't win it. They were so close. I honestly thought you guys mentioned it on the last recap because there was no puzzle involved. They just had to toss the beanbag at the end, and Pew just was short. You know, he gave it all he had, and Tiffany did well, too. It just wasn't enough. I honestly thought it was the way Charlie was struggling. He was going to disappoint his Angels there because he didn't look good for the green team. But I got to say, he bounced back in a big way, and they got second. And kudos to that orange team, though. That Hunter is quite a challenge beast. I know he's hiding his strategy there. He doesn't want to be... He doesn't want them to see that. But Hunter, man, that guy is a warrior. And how about that carrying with Tevin on that roller thing there in the water? That was unreal. And I love that Probst commented on it. But, man, the purple team losing, Bano spilling the beans. Looks like that's what we're going to see revealed on the next time on. Because Q wants him as his Phillip. But I don't know how much Q can actually have patience with him and trust him. We'll see. I was worried Bano was going to actually quit, to be honest with you. Glad that didn't happen. But Brandyn, that's sad, though, with the simply because he was on the bamboo and his arm, fell asleep there. However the doctor put it, they had to get him checked out because, God forbid, it was something serious. But you never want to see it. And honestly, guys, I feel sorry for Venus. That was her one ally, as she said at the end there in her confessional. Now, how is she going to work her way back up with Tevin? Soda seems a little crazy now. And I still think, I don't know, Liz, if that orange team somehow goes, I don't know, Liz, I could still see on the outs even more than Venus. And the green team, man, I'd be remiss not mentioning Jem not finding the advantage. I'm sure you, Stacey, and Joanne wanted them to lose so she could get an idol there. Maybe she will soon enough. And speaking of which, I got to hear Randon's interview to see now, because he had that the idol right with that weird thing. So I wonder if he had to give it up and they re-hit it there. Maybe Venus could have a chance to find it or not. Hopefully they do, though. Have to hear what he says. All right, guys. Well, it was a good episode, nevertheless. Take care. Woo.
Whoa. Pete covered a lot there.
I like his Loserville.
Yeah. Brandyn did leave with it, but he said in his exit interviews, he told Venus about where he had found it, where to go look, and what the next step was. Probst said that he would have had to give it to her before they told him he had been pulled from the game. Up until then, he had every opportunity to do that. And he said he had intended to. It was in his jacket. He just needed to go get his jacket. And for whatever reason, he never made it over there to get his jacket so that he could give it to her. And so...
Guess it wasn't meant to be.
He gave her knowledge about what to look for. Maybe it's enough. Maybe not. We don't know. We'll have to see how that plays out. And then what else did he say? Oh, in terms of the target... From Randon's perspective, Liz is probably okay. He said the vote out on that tribe, from his perspective at least, was going to be between Venus and Soda. That's how he saw it playing out. And it was because Soda had this she had a good social game going, and she had good social connections with everyone. And when he did the thing that Soda ratted him out for, he said that was actually a test that he had done for Soda. So I like that. When he made that Parvati Light comment to Soda, and then Soda ran immediately to Venus, and he said Venus came right over to him and told him. So he said he knew that Soda wasn't going to be one that he could work with. And that's when he started working to push Soda as the option to go. And I guess Liz is, even though with all her I'm rich, I don't need $1 million talk, it wasn't enough to push her to the front of the vote out list from Randon's perspective.
Well, maybe it even is helpful. Maybe they feel like, oh, she doesn't need the money. Well, cool. We'll go to the end. I'm not going to worry about it because she's
there's my goat.
Telling everyone, I don't need the money. I'm not here for the money. And you know.
Well, then you help me win,
like,
Liz.
All right,
you help
then.
me win.
Yeah.
I'll totally take the assist.
No problem.
And let's see, on his injury, he said that he had made a full recovery, but it wasn't an immediate recovery.
No. And he had to have physical therapy.
Right. They
for
started
at least a week before he got the feeling back.
I think he said it was weeks, actually.
Weeks?
Yeah,
Okay.
that they put him on anti-inflammatories and then started physical therapy to work out whatever was causing it to be so bad in his arm.
That's pretty serious when it lasts that long.
Yeah, it wasn't an immediate thing. So it was the right call, unfortunately, for Randon.
Unfortunately, I have had that and do get that, and it can be unbearably painful at times.
Until you've lived a little while, until you've gotten older, and Randon's in his 40s, he's just into his 40s, you don't realize how the smallest thing can completely wreck you.
Yep.
You can lay down, go to sleep, and wake up and not being able to turn your head to the left or the right. And you're like, what happened? Did somebody come in and whop on me while I was snoozing? How did this?
Well,
how
Zed
is this?
might have, but I don't think that would do it.
So severe, and it can happen in all different parts of your body.
It's like all I did was sleep.
Yes, and I'm broken down, and so he just laid funny. And
the doctor's like, "What happened when you were, to
were you in an accident?"
I was sleeping. I woke up.
Yeah. So that's just super, super bad luck for Brandon.
Yes, it is, but he seems like a nice guy. So.
He rolled with it for sure. Yeah. All right. Thanks, Pete. Next up, we got an email from Mary in Maryland. Hello, everyone. I'm getting my feedback in before the last minute this week. You did indeed. While I always love Survivor and discussing it with all of you, watching Banu's continual meltdowns was a bit much this week. It was all... Well, you're just in for a treat. We've got some feedback coming that's going to delight you. It was already a lot between his confusion after tribal council and attempting to work with Kinsey and offering no plan, but then he took it up another notch and went to full-on wailing and panic attack at the journey. Watching Ben and Liz handle that was interesting. They were calm and caring, yet wisely standing back and letting Banu spill all the info. I'm torn about next week. Do we go for the obvious vote out, or do we assume that it can't be that obvious a second week in a row and go for someone completely different for our vote out picks? I'll wait to hear from everyone else before I decide. I have a feeling there might be a tribe swap, so the pecking orders get shuffled and we don't have an obvious boot. I'm not sure if Banu would find himself in a better position on a different tribe now the other tribes know he is wildly emotional and can't keep anything to himself, so he doesn't even seem like a useful number or goat. He would ruin anyone's plans by blurting everything. Right there. Mary nailed it. Too bad about Randon. I hadn't really warmed to him. That's because we didn't get enough to warm to him.
Right.
They really held back on his story. But still sorry to see him have a medical issue and need to leave the game prematurely. Too bad he couldn't have been checked out and then returned. But as some have said, he would likely have gotten IV hydration, food, and rest at a hospital, which could have made it an uneven playing field. I guess we'll never know if his budding working relationship with Venus would have gone anywhere. As for the other players, my USB Charlie did well this week in the challenge. Jim, who I know many have as their USB, showed herself to be a smart player as well, so far keeping the Beware advantage to herself. Yes. Hunter is great. We'll see if he's so great that he gets voted out for being too good at the game. I want Tiffany Q and Kinsey to get the chance to truly play the game with players who can be successful strategically and at challenges. I hope they survive until the merge so we can really see what they can do. Until next week, thanks, Mary. Good job. Yeah, we went back and watched Hunter in that challenge, and I recommend everybody do that if you hadn't, because he's overperforming at like every stage. There's parts right towards the end where he's got one arm
physically pulling
Tevin and the other arm pulling Venus, and he doesn't look like he's that big of a guy that's going to be the guy to do that. But yeah, he was just something else in that whole thing.
Yeah, she was literally just kind of floating on her back while he had her arm pulling her.
Yeah, and then Tevin and Venus, they just like completely were wiped out when it came time to throw the sandbags. They weren't moving; they were laying down.
Mary mentioned that they might do a swap or something this week. I kind of don't. I think maybe that will come next week, because I'm thinking this week is going to be the first week that we get a reward challenge and
like
an
that.
Immunity challenge separately.
I think so. Yep.
So that's why I don't think that they'll do that this week.
Yeah.
But I could be wrong.
I think several people talk about, do you want a Banu or do you not want a Banu? And so I'm with Mary. I would not.
I don't want a Banu.
No.
But let's see what Rebecca has to say about it.
Hi, Joanne and Stacy. It is Rebecca calling with feedback for week 3 of Survivor. It's you gotta know when to fold them. I was screaming at my TV. It's you gotta know when to fold them, dude. When to fold them. I came away from this episode completely convinced that that guy is a plant and an actor, because no one is that overly emotional, that clueless, that overly theatrical. I can't believe he's a real person. I think he's there to just for TV moments. And is he a recruit? Is he from Central Casting? Where did Banu come from? And let's figure this one out all together. He's not real. I'm going to tell everybody all my strategies. I'm going to spill all the tea about everybody on the other side. I can't play worth a lick. I can't keep myself together. Praying to God, it's just a little much. And the whole, I couldn't buy it when he's like, it's, you gotta know when to, how does that go? I was like, you're acting, you're full of it. I'm not buying it, no longer buying it. And when he was in the journey and he was like, I've got nothing, I'm gonna go home now. I literally was in my kitchen eating my breakfast going, bye-bye. I was one of the 22 people who had Randon as a vote out. And, when they won the challenge, I was like, oh, well, not this week. I guess I'm staying in the basement. Hopefully I'll get all my safe points. And then what a twist that he went out on a medical. I felt so bad for him, particularly because I just listened to your podcast and he was actually okay. I wish he had stayed in the game. I really do. And I was wondering as they were taking him out, if Venus knew, like, does she know where the box is buried? Can she take over that advantage? Does she have any of the information? And she is problematic because he's practically being taken out on a stretcher and she's going, this is really bad for me. This really messes me up. No compassion for the guy whatsoever, which was interesting. Love Q, love his coach moments, love his strategy, love the way he thinks out of the box. Ben, at least this week, he didn't fit the word shred into most conversations. Last week I wanted to say I find Ben inshreddable, but this rocks, this doesn't rock. Oh my God. Ben, Liz, and Banu on the journey, it was torturous TV because the three of them are completely clueless. And I guess Liz is a great choice for her tribe to be a vote out next because she doesn't have a vote. And so is Ben. So we'll see what transpires. I think that's all I got. Banu gives me a headache. All right. Can't wait to hear what everyone else has to say. Everyone have a wonderful week. And thank you, Joanne and Stacy. And I'm so happy to have somebody in the basement with me. We can watch TV together. Bye.
There you go, Justin. You got a buddy. Rebecca was talking about Ben, And I was thinking that he was coming off really super good. But there's another extra video. It's like the second with this theme of Ben will not talk strategy. He's not even engaging, according to what we hear from Tim, he's not even engaging with Tim to talk strategy. He just wants to wait until something happens and forces it. And who was it? It was Tim, Maria, and Jim were all concerned about his lack of engagement. And so I'd left the episode with a way more positive perspective on him, saw this extra video, and I thought, oh no, he's not clicking. He's not in a position once it kicks off. Okay, next up, we got an email from Thomas in Toronto, Canada.
Well, this one was much better than the last one. I'm not really sure if the last one was actually supposed to be 2 hours originally, because I've seen some discussion on Reddit about it being fairly last minute. Also on Jeff's podcast, he referred to it as being 90 minutes as well, so I'm not really sure about that.
What Probst said in an interview before the season started was that they didn't know if they were going to be able to do 2 hours and, for which episodes. So they just shot it with that in mind so that they had the option.
Anyway, this was a good episode with an unfortunate ending for Brandyn. I wonder if we will see him again as quickly as we did with Bruce, or if they will hold back on that because of the backlash about it. Anyway, next week looks to be good. Hopefully we get a tribe swap soon, and it isn't as bad as last season's swap. All right, thanks, Thomas. Up next, we have a call from Rashmi.
Hello, Joanne and Stacy and all my survivor friends. Well, this last episode was a bit ho-hum. I didn't see the medevac coming at all, though I found him quite entertaining with the story. Brandyn, what can I say about this episode? All that crying and blubbering was just a bit too much. I don't think Bhanu had any reason to be. He has no business being on Survivor, and it is really goes on the selection team of Survivor who chose him. I have another concern is, I do agree, I think Joanne mentioned it last time about the players not getting enough sustenance, and at least some food is good, because maybe being hungry and being deprived of any warmth because of the fire and not getting anything solid inside them could also be the result of Bhanu being over emotional and crying at the drop of a hat. I've yet to see anybody, a grown-up person, cry like that. So that is what I think it is. I used to watch Bear Grylls Survivor as well, and in that he used to drop off a group of people on an island with no food whatsoever, but they still had equipment to go and find food, and they could actually go and forage in the forest, and they'd look for wildlife to catch and kill and eat. There seems to be nothing here. You don't see any wild hens or something they can catch and kill. They don't have too many implements. So I just think it's really doesn't bode well for strategy and for the well-being of the players. Some little food is required, and in previous times they've been given chickens, and there's something else happening. And even if they're not given a flint, maybe give them the bamboo things that they use for starting fire, so at least they have that and they can work on it to start a fire. Well, those are just my observations, but saying that, no, I did not enjoy this episode at all. And the only person who came out on this was, I think the winner was Liz. She was very smart in choosing Bhanu, and she read him well. And I do hope my USB gem doesn't lose the box, because I don't know, somebody said about some previews they show that somebody else has found the box. I have no idea. So I just hope Bhanu goes home, or he just quits crying. That's all I want. On that note, cheers.
Cheers. Thanks, Rashmi. Yeah.
Well, if somebody else finds the box, then Jim will have to be quite creative if she ever gets the key,
Right, because she's got the scroll that explains what to do next.
Nobody else knows what to do, but she could open it and take what's in there out and lock it back up.
Yes, indeed.
And leave it for them.
Yeah. One thing I noticed in the extra videos this week was that Sega has at least whatever day that was, day 5, 6, 7. I forget where that extra clip was placed, but they've got papaya. They were coming back with 6 papaya in the clip where it was basically talking about how Ben's got no strategic impulse to play the game at this point. The 3 of them, Jim and Ben and Maria, had papayas that they were coming back with.
That's weird. I didn't even notice that.
Okay.
I was so focused on them and what they were saying
about Ben, yeah.
Yeah, that I didn't even notice they were carrying food.
Good stuff. Okay. Thanks, Rashmi. Next up, we got an email from Tara in upstate New York. Hi, everyone. Aside from the unfortunate ending with no tribal, I found this episode more interesting than last week and have a few thoughts. How Banu was cast for Survivor is beyond me. Production must have known that he is not cut out for the strategic elements of the game. I get the feeling that he likes to watch the challenges and thought they would be fun for him without understanding that the real game has very little to do with them. Yeah, well put. He shouldn't have been cast, in my opinion. It made me laugh out loud when Q actually told him he could be his Philip, though. That took some big sandbags. On another note, I've been thinking about that weird Sega flashback and have a couple of theories about it. What if they waited to show Jim finding the Beware advantage because it becomes pivotal in episode 4? I wonder if the preview for episode 4 actually shows her tribe mates getting involved because she never moved the box back to its original spot. Could they find the actual box in her new hiding spot? Otherwise, is it possible that Sega loses the next immunity challenge and production puts the coded clue to the idol in the original spot where the box was found? Without providing another hint to the rest of the tribe, I'm not sure how they would find it, so it's a little out there, but I've had fun thinking about it. Yeah, that's always fun to think about the possibilities there. Lastly, I absolutely think the show should allow for an overnight medical check. In this case, it apparently wouldn't have made a difference, but it definitely could in the future. I have loved finding International Survivor, and one of my favorite players of any season of Survivor, any Survivor season, is King George from Survivor Australia. In season 10, he would have been pulled from the game in the U.S., but came back after medical testing and made the season incredible. It just makes for better TV, in my opinion, and it's better for the players as long as they can do it in a fair way. This week showed Liz in a better light, and Hunter looks to be a real contender. I'm really loving most of this cast, so I can't wait for next week. Looking forward to hearing from everyone else, too. Thanks, Joanna and Stacy. Thank you, Tara. Next up, we got a call from Brandon.
Hey, what's up, Survivor fans? It's Joanna and Stacy. It's Brandon from Northeast Ohio. So this is approximately 7:45 p.m. Eastern Time before the episode airs. As I spoke in my last week's feedback, I won't be able to watch every episode from week to week, but I said I was going to try to call in more. So this won't be about this week's episode. I don't know if anything I say is going to play into this week's episode, but I figure I'll speak on something that I kind of wanted to get into last week, but with 3 minutes, I don't think I could get into it. So this Andy Griffith alliance, okay, Tevin and Hunter. Okay, so check this out. I can't stand Andy Griffith. My mom and my grandma, they loved that show growing up. I thought it was the most boring thing ever. I absolutely loathed that show. I like Andy Griffith more on Matlock. I like Opie, Ron Howard. I like him a lot more, obviously, on Happy Days. Happy Days is my jam. Gomer Pyle, USMC. Let's go. I'm all for that. Obviously, Gomer Pyle. Aunt B, I don't know what else she was in, whatever. But, you know, when I was little, she reminded me of Angela Lansbury, so Murder, She Wrote. I'm good with that one, too. But forget this Andy Griffith crap. I do like Barney, though. Barney's cool. So, because of that, I can't root for Tevin and Hunter. So, I'm really hoping that Randy and Venus is able to do something and one of them gets out at some point in this episode. Well, not necessarily this episode, but at some point in the season. Because I can't root for the Andy Griffith Alliance to win. I just can't. I'm sorry. I can't stand it. I cannot stand that show. Torturous top childhood memories. Sitting there having to watch that crap. All right, that's all I really have to contribute right now. So go Randy, go Venus. That's all I got to say, please.
That's when you read a book, Brandon.
Oh, that's hilarious. Oh, well, it's down to Venus for Brandon now. So just can't stand that alliance, huh?
Oh, come on, Brandon. Now, we know you always pick a favorite woman to cheer for. So,
Well, he just said Venus.
I know.
So, yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
Oh, okay. You're
He
saying
would have done that.
it was never an option to cheer
Yeah.
for Tevin and Hunter because Venus is there. I got you. Okay, got it. Good deal. Thanks, Brandon. Appreciate the call in this week. Next up, we got an email from Jack in California.
I know I'm not the only one, but it sucks to have to get pulled from the game. If someone worked hard to get out there, it really is unfortunate that Brandon had to get pulled from the game based on his shoulder injury and how it happened while sleeping on bamboo. Depending on how it's put together, I can see how uncomfortable sleeping on it may be. For the rest of this episode, Yanu is still struggling out there, but they are trying to make the best of it. I was really thinking this episode that the Yanu tribe would finally win a challenge and be safe based on the episode title. But I was wrong, even though they were in the lead at the challenge for a good amount of time. They were close to winning the challenge too, but then fell behind to lose their third straight time. A tactic that I heard would help at this challenge would be that the spinning platform, and that was when one person starts to go over it, the rest grab onto the foot or ankle of the other tribe members and have a domino effect of one after the other going over. I feel really bad for Banu and how hard it is to see him struggling. I know he seems to be trying his hardest out there, but being on the outs and speaking his thoughts at the last tribal put him in a bad predicament, and I think he probably would have been voted out if they did go to tribal that night. With the edit we keep on getting, it's hard to see if he will be next to go or if he actually stays around for a while. I think he will be around for a while. I was pretty impressed with Jim and Hunter this episode. Jim with how she waited until nightfall to go back and dig up the idol box. I do wonder how all the idols will be played this year, being that Jim, Tiffany, at the time Brandon, had the clues and access to the idols. I'm sure another one is now hidden at the Nami camp somewhere. Hunter is definitely the MacGyver of the season, and I liked him a lot this episode when he was making a bed stand out of bamboo and palms. He dominated the throwing of sandbags at the challenge. He does have to be careful, but I think he will stick around for quite a while still. I did enjoy the sympathy that both Ben and Liz had for Banu and how he was at his lowest during the journey and how they heard him out about everything going on in his tribe and was there to comfort him the best they could. For the advantage puzzle, I'm not sure how good I would have done, but I would have probably looked at all the pieces first to try and figure it out before putting them in place. I am enjoying Ben more and more each episode. I can't really say I dislike anyone yet this season, but Jelinski was the odd one out the first episode with how he performed. All right, thanks, Jack. Up next, we have a call from Chris.
Hi, Joanne and Stacy. It's Chris from Minneapolis calling. I think one thing that fascinated me about this episode was Q's decision to either go with someone who's really loyal but flawed, obviously, or go with somebody who looks to be a really good game player in Kenzie, who sees the game and understands the game and could really help move Q along in the game, but I don't think he trusts her. So I think it's a really fascinating choice that Q is put into, and I really don't know what the answer is. I do, given how flawed Banu is, you might just have to go with Ken's butt. And I think the other thing that I think is really interesting that happens in this episode is you get to see what would happen. Kenzie could have gone home, but Brandon gets evacuated out of the game. If Kenzie ends up winning this season of Survivor, you look at all the things that have to happen in order for somebody to win the game. Kenzie may lose the game just based off of Banu getting sent to the island in the last episode and spilling his guts to the other two people and saying what a great player she is and how manipulative she might be and all that kind of stuff. So I think it just shows you how difficult it is to win Survivor. You need so many things to line up. And it will be interesting to look back if Kenzie ends up winning the game, just what had to happen for her to stay in the game. So interested in your guys' thoughts on those things, and talk to you later. Bye.
Thanks, Chris. Yeah, it's always a fascinating. Normally, we end up talking about it more towards the end, but it's happening all along the way. There's just a phenomenal amount of luck, things that have to break your way. Or in this week's On Fire podcast, Dee was talking about how certainly that was the case for her. She could have got obliterated in that final 5 vote, but it, just so happens it didn't go that way because there was someone that was really incompetent at the game who made a choice that benefited Dee. But that will be fun to look back on and see if Kenzie ends up making it far. We'll see how much Banu's poisoned the well for Kenzie Q and Tiffany too. How much they end up putting into the word of Banu, how much that impacts the game. Good stuff. Thanks, Chris. Next up, we got a call from Sandy.
And Stacy, this is Sandy from Atlanta. Stacy, do you want to share with everybody how you really feel about Banu? I just think he's hysterical. I wonder if he was acting, though, this person who says he's not an actor. Was he acting when he met with Jeff Probst? Because if this is the real Banu, I can't imagine Jeff would put him on the show. But anyway, I'm so impressed with Hunter, and wouldn't it be awesome, and this is a huge Survivor fan talking, to have all these people that love the show, and prepare for it. I mean, Hunter, I'm just blown away by some of these people that come on the show, and they're not just there for, I was on the show, fame, money, what? Can they not figure these people out before they get on the show? That's just me. And even if you have only seen one season of Survivor, then figure out how to make fire. Figure out how to make a shelter. Figure out stuff. I'm just blown away sometimes. But anyway, can somebody in production get Banu his medication? Because he's off of it. Bye.
All right. Thanks, Sandy. Next up, we got an email from Christine in Connecticut. Hello. While I don't think Banu is playing a good game, I did want to come to his defense regarding his use of the know when to hold 'em proverb. He has been wildly ridiculed for botching it. I worked with non-English speaking students for many years. Any non-standard use of language is very difficult to master. We need to remember that English was not Banu's first language and give him a break. That said, he would be so much better off if he kept his mouth shut. If Yanu goes to tribal again, I think he'll be gone, or maybe he'll get another miracle and Yanu will win a challenge. Thanks for the opportunity to share my thoughts. Thank you, Christine. Good job. Next up, we got a call from Drew.
Hey, Joanna and Stacy. Hey, everyone. This is Drew. I'm going to leave this on Friday night because I know while I'm thinking about it is the time to do it. If I wait till tomorrow morning, I'm going to realize by the time I remember, I'm going to realize I'm past the deadline. There we go. Yeah, it was a fine episode. It was kind of anticlimactic. Guys, Banu is I was going to say hot mess. I was going to say train wreck. I just can't think of the right turn of phrase. He's just a mess. And I think the million hearts thing is give me a big fat break. No. You're not there to play. There are so many thoughts that I had that are just flying from my mind right now, but that just kind of, some of the things I think Q was saying that are just really encapsulating how I think he's really on point with his assessment of how Banu is not there. He's not understanding the game or of awareness of what's going on around him, and just the emotionally crippled reactions to everything is just really kind of bizarre and kind of off-putting. So that's not what I really want to. I like human emotion. I like the human angle. This is just too far, and I think he even could be just playing it up. So I don't know. The histrionics and the waterworks. He lives to sit around another day. I don't even want to say play another day because there's not much playing going on for this. I think he was pretty dramatic about everything too. He's that type who just can't let things go, especially if he didn't do his very best, even though maybe he did do his very best, it just wasn't quite enough or the right timing or who knows. I think there's just a lot of drama going on. There's a lot of drama, put it that way. I think it was really anticlimactic. Of course, they got to play it safe, so they just pulled Brandon, did the test, and it turns out it was nothing and fine, and it wasn't what they thought, so big bummer. But yeah, he was not really contributing anything. except I guess to Venus. But I thought it was interesting. I think it was last week that whoever revealed, I think they referred to Soda as Sodasia. I don't know if that was like a nickname, but I always thought Soda was short for something, and I just didn't know because I didn't do much Gabic, but that would make sense. So yeah, I feel like we've had 3 episodes of kind of going through the motions, all taking a long time to go through the motions, like the obvious vote, the medevac, but there has been a lot kind of stewing and stirring, so hopefully the next few episodes we'll start to see some more payoff, some more things going down, and some of the players currently in the game, there's a lot of gameplay going on. There's a lot of thinking and a lot of playing and a lot of strategy and a lot of planning. And yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Not the best episode. It's always kind of a letdown at the end. Oh, yeah, the way that Bonnie was talking to Jeff at the end, it was just weird. It's just weird, you guys. That's all I got to say. Okay, have a good weekend. Tomorrow is my birthday. So, gonna have a fun weekend. Last weekend, of course, we had Adelaide. And this weekend is mine. So, seems to follow every year. It's weird. Okay, talk to you later. Bye.
Weird. Happy birthday,
well,
Drew.
Happy birthday, Drew.
Next up, we got a call from David. And cringe warning, here comes David with a role play for us.
This is David in Pittsburgh. Please, I can't say my USB's name. I never want to hear his name again. I don't want to see him on my TV. Joanne, Stacy, help me. I need someone to help me. I can't deal with this anymore. What an emotional mess.
Nailed it.
We've seen cases where a survivor like Aubrey has a major meltdown early on and then pulls herself together, and by the very end, she's in the final 3. But that's what I kept waiting for. I kept thinking, well, they're leading us on. We're going to see a redemption arc. We're going to see him come from behind. Now, I just take him off my screen. Here's my 24 points. I'll pay anything. I just do not want to watch him. I'm so frustrated every time I see him boo-hooing. And casting had to know something about putting those 3, Jelinski and Jess and you-know-who, on the same team. We saw what happened the last season with the quitters. These were 3 people who should not have been playing Survivor. In no way, shape, or form could they have passed the psychological test or whatever test that they were given. So I think, I don't know what to think. Then Jeff comes in and, Yelenu, you're saved. Someone else was taken out of the game. Cheers. Oh, everybody's happy. And I'm calming down. And then comes the previews. I said something bad. Oh, please take him away.
He totally nails it. I had the same response.
All right, way to go, David.
To that depiction that I did to the real thing. Good job. Yeah, I got the sense that they didn't know for sure that it was going to play out this way, listening to Prope's podcast this week, because they talked about taking care to film Banu's existential crisis from a certain perspective, not to be judgmental in any way, but the way Probst framed it, the way he described it, and seemed to be considering it didn't. The flip side of that is that it fits with, this is a character that a little kid can understand because it's so over the top, so overblown, that it fits his goal of a family-friendly TV moments and things like that I could see him just being
or
delighted.
Or reacting like a child.
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, child to child, they can make the connection.
That's it.
And from that goal, then I guess it's a big success. All right, thanks, David. Don't ever do that again. Next up, we got an email from Nicky in Florida.
I've been watching Survivor since day 1. Love the show. I play JSFL, and I'm always in the middle. I do okay. Let's begin with Banu. Why is he even on the show? I'm sure he's a great guy outside of Survivor, but crying all the time over everything? What were the casting people looking at? It's sad. I don't see how he can get better. I feel bad for the guy. I did have him as a vote off, and he probably would have gone home. I'm tired of the 3 tribes. I wish they would do 2. When they do 3, it always seems one tribe gets destroyed.
Yeah.
I have no clue who's going to get the boot. I'll choose who I'm pretty sure will be safe, and I shall randomly pick who's going to leave from the few I think are in danger. Enjoy your week, everyone. All right. Thanks, Nicky.
Yeah, that's pretty much how it goes every week with picks. Yeah.
Next up, we got a call from Parker.
Hey, it's Park from Indiana, and yeah, I'd say this one was a dud. Every once in a while that happens pre-merge. You'll just get a boring episode. It happens. Oh well, we have next week to look forward to. I think it's mainly because of the anticlimactic ending, and I feel bad for Brandyn for sure. I really wanted Bono to go. Actually, I picked Liz to go because I was like, oh, I guess, I don't know. I just figured that Nami would lose this week. Yanu losing streak would stop. It didn't. But we did get a lot of Nami content this episode, so I was like, oh, okay. It's gonna happen. Like, they're definitely losing this week. And then they didn't because Hunter is a beast and just made the comeback of a century in that challenge. Mm-hmm. And then Q was like, that's it. I don't deserve to be here. Dude, I think he got over that hump pretty quick. But, wow, really? But it seems like he pulled himself from that hole, that moment pretty quickly because he was gung-ho about getting Kinsey out, which I really like Kinsey. I like Tiffany. I like Q. I don't know. I lost a little bit of respect for Q with him just being, yeah, vote me out, guys. But I think Tiffany, real quick, was like, absolutely not. And they probably had a heart-to-heart about that, which we just didn't see because it didn't end up paying off, which nothing really ended up paying off except for Brandyn being, oh, I can't feel my arm. I can't feel my hand. Which, yeah, that's pretty scary. What the heck? I'm glad he isn't paralyzed, but why did we not spend more time on that? I'm very confused with how they chose to tell Brandyn's story because all of his moments were just given to other people. Because in the very first episode, he sees Venus looking for Niall, tells Soda tells Venus, oh, look, Venus and Soda are friends. Not a moment about Brandyn, but Brandyn got a confessional, so there you go. Last week's episode, he finds an advantage, but then it becomes a Venus moment because, oh, he's going to be Venus's friend, right? So there you go, another Brandyn moment, but it's given to Venus. It becomes her moment. And then in this episode, we get a lot of Nami content. Most of it's Hunter-based, Venus-based, pretty standard at this point. And he gets he tells us about his arm, but then is brushed off pretty quickly to just being about other people in the tribe. And then at the very end of the episode, it's you're gone. It just feels so random. It's so out of left field. And even when he's getting pulled, or right before he's getting pulled, Liz has confessional about Jeff Probst walking up. It's not Brandyn having a confessional. Oh, shoot, I'm about to get pulled from this game. What the heck? Maybe that's because they didn't have time to do any last-minute confessionals random. I don't know. I don't really know how that works, because sometimes you do get that kind of thing, even when there's a medevac. I don't know. It just seems so weird. I feel bad for the guy. He got ghosted in the edit pretty much. He got some stuff, but he just wasn't a big character, and then he gets medevacs. But then I feel like in Survivor history, like most of the medevacs are big characters because they want us to feel like a gut punch when they get medevaced. I don't know. It was just very random. But yeah, that's all I got. I will see you all next time.
Thanks, Parker. I'm with you. I lost some respect for Q's game acumen this past week when he pulled that vote me out thing, for sure. But
yeah,
thankfully Tiffany and Kinsey weren't having any of that.
Well, and maybe it's because maybe he doesn't need the money either.
Well, according to what he said, he's way richer than Liz. I would think, since his portfolio is worth $10 or $11 million.
Well, the other thing, didn't you say that Brandyn said in his interview that he was hiding or trying to hide a lot of his pain from his tribe? How much pain he was really in with his hand and everything.
I thought he said that in the episode, but I can't remember. Yeah, that wouldn't surprise me. Yeah, that he was trying to mask it from him. Thanks, Parker. Next up, We got a call from Brandyn.
Hey there, Joanne and Stacy. Brandon from Indiana here with my episode 3 feedback here on a very stormy night in Indiana. First things first, though, because I noticed it in the previous week's Next on Survivor segment that they had focused on the whole mermaid dragon thing, and then when they actually showed us the mermaid dragon thing, sir, the top half of a mermaid is just a woman. You've removed the mer part of the equation when you then put the dragon at the back. I don't feel like you understand what exactly you're saying.
Bingo.
Maybe it's just because of the Little Mermaid having red hair, but very odd to me that he physically showed the top half of his body and motion to it as he said mermaid and then dragon for the back half. It's like, if there's not a fishtail, the mermaid aspect is out the window, bro. But also with Banu, I felt like there was so many times, specifically during his major breakdowns, where if he would just have stopped about 3/4 of the way through that breakdown, he would have had a lot of people on his side. He would have had me on his side. And then he just takes that next step that goes too far. Man, that million hearts line, I was physically recoiling from my television screen, just cringing while I listened to him tell Jeff, I'm not here for the $1 million. Jeff's probably thinking, well, then why did I bring you out here then, Banu? I thought it was interesting seeing so many people talk about Banu getting his miracle when obviously it's at the very direct detriment to Randon. I don't know what Randon did to upset God then, but apparently he didn't go well. This is the most uncomfortable I've been with the religion aspect being involved in Survivor since the coach cult leader days, and I'm not a big fan of it again here. And clearly even Jeff was uncomfortable with the guru line. Loved the return of Ben to the tribe with him screaming from the boat, I've got some gossip. That cracked me up probably more than anything else in the show this season, and it made me really like Ben even more. But moving forward with Survivor, next on, they tease this mysterious item that's found. I'm curious if that's Jem's box that they find that she very clearly hid seemingly under what looks like things that I would grab immediately for firewood. If I had to guess as far as who I think is going out, I'm going to say Banu again, because it seems like that is a foregone conclusion. But maybe not. Maybe Q has a trick up his sleeve that makes sense that he can take one vote and turn it into 2 out of 3. We'll see. Thanks again, Joanne and Stacy, for all that you do. Love the podcast so far this season, even in the episodes that maybe feel a little bit overinflated due to time needs by CBS. Can't wait to hear what the rest of the Survivor fans thought.
Excellent. Thanks, Brandon.
Well, if Banu tells them that he told them Kinsey was the mastermind of the group, Q might be okay keeping her then. Because who's going to want to work with the mastermind? Maybe
Right.
a few people. But
She's a shield at that point, right?
yeah.
Good stuff. Thanks, Brandon. I hope everything worked out okay. I saw there was like all kinds of crazy tornadoes around you. They were like teaming up and forming bigger tornadoes. It was quite the mess there. Next up, we got an email from Shahin in Australia. Hi, Joanne and Stacy. Hope you and all the listeners are well and safe. I'm minutes away from passing out due to tiredness. We've recently arrived in Adelaide, where my wife and I are originally from. Beautiful weather. Luckily, avoiding the greater than 40 C temperatures they had a week ago. Whew, that's hot. A more subdued episode this week, as expected with the shorter episode. There's a good reason why I voted for Banu out every week for 3 weeks, and I just knew he and his tribe were going to head back to tribal. Unfortunately, Randon got a swift exit and scuppered my plans once again. Did he end up having a spinal disc injury? No, he was okay. I would think the medical screening would involve body scans for all castmates to observe any issues before coming into the game. That's an interesting question. I wonder how thorough those are physically. Back to Banu, seasons 45 and 46 are beginning to mirror each other in terms of casting procedure. These TV moments are nothing short of cringeworthy. I wonder maybe they did their research and their new target market, the younger generation, are seeking this type of casting and gameplay. Yeah, that's another interesting twist on that idea. Has a portion of the game swept us initial appreciators aside? Possibly. I really hope we aren't being ignored if this is the case. Nevertheless, we are seeing some great individual gameplay, with Jim getting that extra screen time that both of you have been yearning for. I think Liz, and to an extent Ben, did well in coddling Banu to extract more info, but let's face it, that man was spilling the beans faster than a Heinz factory. I have a feeling next week it's Sega's turn, and if that is the case, Jim or Tim could be targets. I'm definitely keen to hear everyone else's insights and hope to send a voice recording in next week. Cheers. Cheers, Shahin. Thanks for getting that in. Appreciate it. Next up, we got a call from Justin.
Hey, Joanne and Stacy and all the Survivor Super fans. It's Justin from Michigan. So you have this Yanu tribe with Jelinski, Jess, and Banu. Arguably 3 of the biggest messes of the season. I mean, you could make an argument for maybe Liz. Other than that, from what we've been seeing, those 3 are the strategically weakest players and probably the most volatile, and they're all on the same tribe. I mean, that really screws good players like Tiffany and Q and Kenzie. So I was thinking, how could we avoid this? Of course, we had Lulu last season where it seemed like, well, Caleb got screwed right off the bat because he was a good player, but he got stuck with all these dimwits. So I was thinking, why don't they go back to some form of schoolyard pick? So you could start the season not predetermining the tribes, and you could even have some type of challenge to start the season, whatever it is, and then you establish captains, and then those 3 captains divide up the tribes. That way, if one tribe gets stacked one way or the other, it at least was not forced by production. At least the players had some say of how the tribes were divided. So that's just one thing I'd like to see come back. I always enjoy starting off a season not knowing who's going to be on which tribe and determining that in that first episode. So I'd like to go back to that. It was a really unfortunate situation with Randon where he had to be pulled for precautionary reasons. After his exit interview, it sounds like he was struggling for a few days or maybe even a couple weeks after his MRI and diagnosis and everything. So he probably wouldn't have been able to continue. But a few seasons back, they gave players IVs because of dehydration. What's the difference? If you helicopter someone to get a quick MRI, see if it's something life-threatening or serious, and if it's not, return them to the game, especially if they're not going to tribal. That's my take on it. If they take him and they say, nope, this is a serious issue, okay, then you make the announcement he's staying out of the game. It sounds like he was going to give the advantage to Venus, and he would have been allowed to, but it just didn't work out. He wasn't able to get it back to his coat where the idol was and then get alone time with Venus. So it does sound like that's a possibility for players in the future if this situation arises. All right, I've held off long enough. I'm just sick of Banu. This was part of my reasoning for my first point of we need a different way to divide up these tribes so we don't get Banu, Jess, and Jelinski on the same tribe. This guy's a mess. Yeah, he does show some glimpses of trying to play strategically, but this woe is me, pity party, victim mentality he has is so annoying. Take some accountability. You put yourself in that position. Because somebody who has that type of immigration background and did have to struggle, it just doesn't seem like he has much fight. That's Survivor. Fight through it. Don't cry about it. I'm sick of Banu. I hope he goes home next week, and I'm definitely don't want to see him strung along. It's just not worth the hassle, in my opinion. So that's all I got. See you guys next time.
Thanks, Justin. Yeah, that could be something, huh? To have some kind of initial assessment challenge that gives you a sense of each individual, and then do a pick where maybe the 2 people who did the best. Or if you really feel like you got to stick with the 3 tribes, then the 2 or 3 that did the best being the captains, and then each person after has to make the next pick.
Yeah, and they'd probably do a female, a male, a female, a male.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, something like that. It would take more work, and clearly whatever they're doing isn't working. Probe said he's open to doing schoolyard picks again, because there was a similar, although slightly different question that came up in On Fire podcast this week. but he said they have to have a good reason for it. Anyway, thanks again, Justin. Next up, we got a call from Jade.
Hi, Joanne and Stacey. This is Jade from Hawaii and actually in Seattle right now. A little traveling for spring break. Mom is back at home, thankfully taking care of my dog, but she said that I could do the feedback this time. So my turn. So basically, this episode, Mom said, could have been called The Tears of Banu. It's all about his breakdown, but I just worry about him. I feel like he is not necessarily a mentally stable person, and if they continue to cast people like that, then the show will be more about people's breakdowns and kind of recovery. Maybe that's what Jeff wants because they're TV moments, but it's not as interesting to me because it's not necessarily part of the game as much. Anyway, I'm wondering if anyone else is tired of watching these like single tribes lose over and over. I feel like that's what happens when you have these small tribes. Very often, they start off at a disadvantage and they just continue to lose, and a few losses decimates them. It just is not as interesting to me when one tribe continues to lose. I want to see everyone go to tribal. Maybe Purple's cursed, I don't know. The only reason that we don't have another Tika situation is because Randon went out, and Randon was my USB, but to be honest, I forgot that he was my USB until kind of the end of the episode, because after episode 1, I had just basically abandoned him in my mind because I felt like I made the wrong decision immediately. So I'm sad for him because he went out because of a medevac, and that's just a bummer. No one wants to go out like that. But did anyone else find it very awkward that Banu and the rest of the Purple tribe was so excited about it, and they were like, yay, it's an answer to prayer? I don't know. It just seemed really weird to me. It just made me feel like a little bit uncomfortable. Like maybe you shouldn't be saying that about someone else's ill fortune, but at least it makes things a little bit more interesting, and next week we'll see what happens. I have been pretty distracted by some other things happening in life, so I haven't been as active, but I'm sure I will figure something out. I'll make my picks like I usually do and hopefully get at least 4 points. I'm looking forward to hearing what everyone else has to say. Thanks, Joanne and Stacey.
Thanks, Jade. Good job. Next up, we got a quick email from Roseanne H.
Banu Gopal is an actor. Google him. He is playing everyone. It's all an act. I knew something was off when he was describing Kinsey as a mermaid dragon. The way his voice changed when he said dragon. Thanks, Roseanne.
Yeah.
You're right. I Googled him too, and
he's got an IMDb page, and it clearly says actor. So, what's going on?
He's been in several films, and he's also, they said, a classical dancer, well known.
Right, that was in his bio. Yeah. We knew about the dancer part, so we knew he had some flair for the dramatic. But yeah, he's straight up actor credentials.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So
how much of it really is
existential crisis? Yeah.
Or just
performance.
Yeah.
So that he can win hearts on TV and film.
I think he's actually doing the opposite for me. If I don't ever see him again, I'm good with that.
It will check the box for me too.
So I don't think that he's putting out there what he really wants to happen, because
the end of all these paths seems like a bad result to me. So
that's why he doesn't care about winning the money. That wasn't his goal.
Right, exposure. And we've definitely seen this before. We just haven't seen it in such the melodramatic, way, way, way over the top.
So I think that does, thanks Roseanne, that does
gives us another perspective to consider.
Another way to discount him. Like, I'm not buying any of that.
Good deal.
I'm not giving him any credit, even if he is genuine. I'm not going to believe he's genuine.
Yeah, and I don't want anything he's selling.
Yeah, exactly.
Next up, we got a call from Jill.
Hi, Joe and Stacey. Hi, Survivor fans. It's Jill in the Outback here. Yeah, gosh, I hate episodes like this with no tribal council at the end. Devastated for Randon that he had to be pulled from the game, but it really just doesn't make a great episode. And to answer your question at the end of the recap show, Stacey, do we want to see more players like Banu? No, I don't. And I don't think it's just casting. It's got to be the player as well. Like players like Jelinski had absolutely no self-awareness whatsoever. And I think maybe Banu was the same. Like, somebody so emotional, they have to know that it's going to be tough for them being out there with hardly any sleep, with bugger all food, and with so much stress on top of them with tribal councils and the paranoia that the game can leave you with. I have a theory about the new age players, the ones that got into Survivor through lockdown. The way that they've watched the show just one season after another without time to think in between each season, let alone each episode, I don't think it gives them enough time to learn the nuances of the game, what we all pick up through the podcasts and through the Facebook group and things like that. I don't want to gatekeep Survivor, the more the merrier, but it's a different kind of fandom when you're up against a 20 years Survivor fan who has buried themselves deep into the game. Anyway, that's just me thinking out loud. On to the actual show. In Australian Survivor, there was a locked box, just like the idol boxes from this season. And one of the fellas just went and broke into it. Didn't bother with the key, just broke into it. Nothing was ever done or said about it. I wonder if they would let them get away with doing that with the idol boxes that the contestants are finding this year. I somehow don't think they would, and I was surprised that he was allowed to get away with it in the Australian one. But yeah, it's just something to think about. Why do people just not break in? Liz and Tim handled Banu really well on the journey. They were really sensitive to him and nice to him, and I think he really needed that. But they were still 100% in the game and got as much information out of him as they could. I do wonder if the puzzles need to be a little bit easier. If they're so hard that no one's ever going to get them, that's not great TV either. Thanks for everything, Joanne and Stacey, and can't wait to listen to the feedback show. Happy days, everyone. Bye.
Thanks, Jill. Happy days. Yeah, they've miscalibrated on a lot of things, and they've gotten better in the 40s, from the wild missteps of 41 and 42. But the dials are still not quite right. Next up, we got a call from Jeremiah.
Hello, Joanne and Stacey, Survivor friends. Jeremiah here with some feedback for this week's episode of Survivor. And I am so glad you all brought up the whole Banu conversation, because that's exactly what I did want to talk about for my feedback this week. I know there's a lot of mixed feelings about players like Banu, but for me, this is exactly what I want. I want every season have a couple of over-the-top big characters like Banu who are terrible at the game. And maybe sometimes they can be good at the game. I don't know. You look at Carolyn and Jam Jam from a few seasons ago, both amazingly big characters, like great TV moments with the two of them. But they're actually halfway decent. And, one of them being really good at the game of Survivor. You can make an argument they both were pretty good at the game of Survivor. And I'm cool with that too. I just love watching, though, players who are a huge trainer. I don't want a whole season full of them, obviously. I just want a few really interesting people to watch like Banu. I think what's more fascinating is watching how other players play with those kind of players. To me, I got more frustrated, and don't get me wrong, I understand why people get frustrated with people like Banu, but I get more frustrated with people like Q, who are actually considering keeping someone like Banu over a Kinsey, because, Kinsey's the devil you know what to expect for her. Banu is the kind of player who you do not know what to expect from him. He could easily mess up your game by doing something stupid. So to me, that's more fascinating, is watching players and how they deal with other players that are just terrible at the game. You get rid of them. That's the answer. You get rid of them. But for us as viewers, we're still watching a TV show, no matter what. I mean, I know we love great gameplay, and that's what's most important. But I also love watching good TV. I love watching people screw up or do dumb things. That's what's entertaining. That's what's fun. This is television. So I get why people get frustrated. I understand. It's part of human nature for us to get frustrated when we watch dumb people do dumb things. But he seems pretty authentic to himself. I know maybe he plays a little over the top. I don't know. But he's interesting because you just don't know what the heck the guy's going to do. So for me, that's I find the most fascinating when it comes to this kind of television. All right, so I made my piece. There you go. As far as who's going to go home next week, oh man, obviously Banu has to go if they go back to tribal council. But I think are we going to finally get something happen here with Venus? You know, she's in trouble now. Her person just got out of the game from a injury, which, oh man, that sucks. I always say, boy, I hope that never happens to me. So I'm going to say Venus right now. That's my pick early on. All right, well, that's it for me. You all take care. Until next time, this is Jeremiah from Southern California.
Yeah, Randon's exit interviews. He said he thought it was going to come down between Venus and Soda. So not a bad pick. Thanks, Jeremiah. Next up, we got an email from Josh, the plush moose from Massachusetts. Dear Joanne and Stacy, this episode was a better length, but we're still watching the Banu channel. My other observations. Banu packed the wrong shirt. He should have brought one that said, "Be kind to me," instead of just "be kind." Randon's next venture, Pitchman. Do you feel like you're sleeping on bamboo sticks? Don't lose your nerve. Buy a Hunter portable rope bed instead. Oh, nice. Even rhymed. I think you put some effort into that one. That was good. The Nami Nightmare version of the challenge would have replaced the rolling log with the gears from Chaplin's Modern Times. Wow, what a throwback. Bono's plea to the survivor gods to save him must have struck a nerve with them. That's bad. With Yanu's luck, I half expected the rock overhang to fall on them, coyote style. The whole fake idol for Jess thing is why Banu can't trust the Yano 3. Mermaid means a sea maid with a fish tail. That makes Kinsey a dragon maid, indeed. I think Banu's namaste was aimed at Kinsey. No mo stay. Oh, goodness. How did the refrain from the gambler turn into a proverb? Could someone explain why Banu thought the idol could only be under a fallen coconut? Yeah, that was his level of searchability. Did Sega get their group idol hunt idea from Boston Rob's buddy system? Q wants to be season 46's Caleb, but Banu is no enemy. Emily. I'll do that again, goodness. Q wants to be season 46 as Caleb, but Banu is no Emily. Jim's clue said beware. The producers knew it might go down someone's pants. Banu wants to win 1 million hearts, but he's willing to settle for 100,000 Sia bucks. Indeed, that could be just, there's yet another take. It's complete pandering for that. I was impressed that Jim found the box in the dark. Yeah, me too. Hunter is this season's MacGyver. Who is its MacGruber? Is Banu the bomb? Could be. During college, Tevin took an elective course in basket weaving. Hunter's next appearance on reality TV will be on Hoarders. Venus's reasoning on Hunter reminds me of a fellow juror who once said, "He's guilty because he's guilty." That's some solid logic right there. Once again, Yanu snatched defeat from the jaws of victory. I'm betting that Hunter has sandbags, platforms, and a roller log back home. Definitely had sandbags. We saw those. I've been praying for a tribe swap next week, but the survivor gods have been silent. Did anyone notice that Q's plan to vote for Kinsey came after she kneed him in the head? She did flip over on top of him and whack him, didn't she? I think there was Velcro on some of the sandbag platforms. Once again, the results were Nami first, Sega second, Yanu third. CBS should sell a t-shirt. Dr. Will should have given Banu some Pepto-Bismol for his verbal diarrhea. Every time they show an hourglass, the Days of Our Lives intro plays in my head. Liz and Ben got Banu to blab. The interrogation started and ended with, "Hi, Banu." This week's Yogi Berra-ism, rocks do not rock. At some point, I realized that there wasn't time for tribal and a medevac was coming. Yeah, we had that same realization. I'm convinced that Ben is a hard rock game bot. He runs on AC/DC. That's nice. All right. Yanu, will you please put Banu out of our misery? Yes. Randon's surgery would have been in Australia. Dr. Will's colleagues need the money. Okay, to be fair, they said he was consulting with surgeons all around the world. But yeah, they said they were going to fly him to Australia for that if they needed to. Jeff is Banu's guru. I don't think Jeff wants the job. How did Randon's medevac become a pity party for Venus? Next, Banu did something wrong and he has to go. Yep, it's Wednesday. Anyways, that's it for me for now. Thanks, Joanna, Stacy, for all you do. Can't wait to hear what the other Survivor fans have to say. Stay safe, everybody. Thanks, Josh. Good job. Next up, we got a call from Jen.
Hi, everyone. This is Jen in California. And here are my thoughts on Survivor 46, Episode 3. This was the episode of Banu just being a hot mess, and then ultimately and frustratingly being saved from elimination by a technicality. Starting off on a lighthearted note, early in the episode, Banu had so many clothes on. Where did he get it all? He had jeans, he had this heavy sweater, he had shoes that were nice and clean. The whole being clean in a confessional look threw me for a big loop this episode, because Q also had a confessional and he was clean as can be, and I thought to myself, did he shower? Is this show fake? Am I just learning now that my favorite show isn't real? Then in the next scene, Q basically says that he wants to be voted out, and I think to myself, did they just show a confessional that they filmed after Q left the island? That's a major spoiler. At least that's what I was thinking at the time. I thought it was spoiled and I was waiting to see, but then of course Brandyn leaves the game, so that didn't come to fruition, but still I was just all over the place with conspiracy theories this episode. So back to Banu. He has crazy eyes and he is so over-the-top dramatic. Kinsey was trying to help him and light a fire under him, but he sees something else and calls her a mermaid dragon. Q compares Banu to Philip to his face, basically telling Banu that he's a goat and a liability, and Banu likes Q's conversation better. Go figure. And finally, Banu does not want to win $1 million. He wants to win 1,000,000 hearts. That is not the player of Survivor that I want to see on my screen. I am not in the 1,000,000 hearts category. I am in the 1,000,000 disappointed people category. On the Nami tribe, Liz telling us that Hunter is only here for the adventure. Isn't that a little bit like the pot calling the kettle black? Everyone is really reading Hunter wrong, and I find that really interesting, and I'm interested to see where that goes. At the immunity challenge, I thought I saw Soda and Venus clash again about who should sit out. Venus looked like she was physically struggling, but then again, on second thought, they probably didn't want to sit two weak people out in Brandyn and Venus, because then they would both have to compete in the next challenge, hypothetically. And in the end, it didn't matter because they won again. Nami continues to dominate, Sika continues to look strong, and I was so ready to get my third vote-off point in a row. I'm ready for Banu to leave the game. I'm ready for the focus to be on other players, because he very obviously is not a contender. And I find myself yearning for a season of Survivor in which there isn't a quit and there isn't a medical evacuation. Yeah. Those two things interrupt the flow of the game in such a negative way. These events offer a life raft to players who wouldn't otherwise have any foothold or any other means of keeping themselves in the game. And it really does skew the trajectory of the game in a different direction. Anyway, that's it for me. I can't wait to hear everyone else's feedback and thoughts. Till next week.
Thanks, Jen. Oh, that's a different perspective on the episode, too. I enjoyed that. Next up, we got a call from Paul.
Hey, Paul, Louisiana here, and here's the deal. Was that really an hour-and-a-half episode or a 4-hour one? Because, man, was that annoyingly long to me, which is my roundabout way of saying that I didn't particularly enjoy this episode. But it's only because of one person, who is acting more like a child than a man. He's paranoid to the max, he's flat-out lying, probably without even realizing it. But it's not that standard Survivor lying that players do to further their game. I mean, Banu's twisted reality is that he's the good guy that everyone is flat out against. But this is actually pissing me off, and it made this episode difficult for me to deal with. This guy is so ill-equipped to play Survivor. While everyone else is looking in trees and reaching in crevices to find advantages, this guy is looking under stray coconuts along the path. But surely he'll be voted off during Tribal, right? Yeah, well, that didn't happen, which means that we've got to endure another episode of him crying and whining. Oh, but let's not forget how he's totally poisoned Kenzie, and to a lesser extent Q and Tiffany, to the other tribes. It's just the way that he did it that bothers me so much, that his delusions are reality. Johnny Fairplay's grandma move was, well, at least strategic, but Banu is just a slimy snake with no grasp on who or what he is. Hopefully Q will come to realize that you can't keep an anchor around your neck while you're struggling to stay afloat. I think that Q's problem is that he's mixing up his pre-merge strategy with his after-merge strategy, and that could really cost him in the end. So, yeah, I'm picking Banu to go again this weekend, and that's all I'm saying about him. Now, I was sad to see Brandyn go. Perhaps his medevac was the reason we saw so little of him in the game. According to Banu, his prayers were answered and God smited Brandyn to save Banu, but I don't see it like that. And here I am talking about him again. Anyway, Brandon's departure has left Venus high and dry, huh? And did anyone see how she reacted at the end of that challenge? Because judging by her face and her body language, you would have sworn that Nami lost and that Venus might well be voted out. And what about Hunter? That guy is horrid, right? Literally carrying her worthless, wet butt through the entire challenge. I mean, was she trying to force a loss so that she could hopefully vote him off? Well, she made him look kind of incredible, so wow, way to go, Venus. Now, I freely admit that I had low expectations for her, but she's even worse than I thought. She's just another player that brings nothing to the game. In fact, so far, 3 episodes in, the game has barely begun because we're too busy weeding out people that don't belong there. So, yeah, casting for this season has been horrible. Why were Jess, Jelinski, and Banu, and to a lesser extent Venus, brought into this game? We don't want to see weak players. I don't care how strong their personalities are. If casting thinks that they're providing something worthwhile by casting them, well, they are dead wrong because this is becoming painful to watch. And I guess I'm going to end it here. Like I said, I hope that Q realizes the flaw in his strategy and votes off Banu. That's my wishful thinking, and hopefully a big part of the solution to make this season turn around. Catch you all later. Bye.
Thanks, Paul. Yeah, definitely agree with that. I do hope Q comes around on that one, because I won't be surprised to see them end up at tribal council again, for sure. It's just so many things are going against Kenzie, Q, and Tiffany.
Yeah, I also feel more disappointed in Q.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm not really invested in him anymore either.
Yeah, I
so
got to pull back a
if
little.
He goes, he goes.
Yeah.
But, if he's willing to give up that quickly. Or was he after sympathy too? Not sure. But I think it's more that that's just his pattern of beating himself up if he's not good at everything he thinks he should be, and it tapped into some old teenage owies.
Yeah. Quintavious Fumbles. What was his last name?
Do not know.
Anyway, Fumbles was disappointing. I can get past the Banu thing. I'm thinking they're going to get rid of him, but I was really disappointed in Q. That ends up being my bigger takeaway after getting to see it from everybody else's perspective.
I think if they go back to tribal,
Burdette.
He's going because, number one, once Kenzie and Tiffany find out they're not hearing anything else that Q has to say about it, they're not going to budge. It's like, get rid of him. He's already done this, and I want him out.
Plus, let's look at the no votes. That's instructive at this point. It's a good time to look at Paul's roster. Banu doesn't have a vote. So if Q wants to go against Kenzie, then he's got to get Tiffany, and I think Tiffany's smart enough not to go that route.
She's not going to budge once. I think she might have. She might have been convinced.
He might have swayed her in the moment,
but not once they find out if Banu's going to tell them what he told the other people, or even insinuate that he said things about them. Then
she'll snap too.
She's not going to do it.
So let's look at Siga real quick. No vote. Ben's got no vote. Jim's got no vote. Maria's got an extra vote to balance out one of those. But that's an interesting situation where you got 2 people sitting on no votes. Now,
just gives her even more power.
Yeah. That might obviously change for Jim. If they were to be the ones that lost, then she gets that opportunity, assuming something weird doesn't happen with that hole that they were digging.
Or if that's just the box they found or something. Maybe she stuck it there. Though she was supposed to put it back under the tree, but maybe she didn't have time to read.
I don't know if she was supposed to. She's supposed to return to the tree for the next one, but I don't know that it said that she explicitly had to rebury it there. That was just a choice that Tiffany and Randon made in the moment. It's kind of... It's just you're going with the flow. You know what's interesting, too, is that I don't believe they've shown us the full text of that initial Beware Advantage note. I don't think we've seen it. And, because Jim alluded to what would happen if they don't lose. But she didn't say how it was going to play out. She just said there was more to it, right? But we haven't seen the whole thing. I'm going to go back and look and see if I can find it. But I believe there's a reason there that they're holding that back from us. Because usually you get a shot at the full text of the advantage detail.
That's true.
Or, you can make it out. We'll go in and look frame by frame and try to piece it together. And then, okay, so they're down Randon and Nami, but Tevin's sitting on an extra vote. Okay.
Well, right now, I plan to vote Banu.
Yeah, because I don't want him to be there anymore.
Yeah, I don't
It's
either.
purely that. It's selfish reason on my part. Let's get rid of him. And the potential for them to lose is certainly there.
Well, and they did okay in the water this week, which could bode well, but I'm not counting. I was so sure they were going to make it through this week till I'm not even going to bother doing that again.
Yeah. All right. What a great listener feedback show. Thanks to everybody who took the time to get your thoughts and predictions in. We enjoyed it. You gave us more to think about. You let us see the castaways through different lenses. We appreciate hearing from all of you. Also, a big thanks to Kim for your donation. We greatly appreciate that, helping out with our operational cost here at the podcast. Thank you so much for that, Kim.
And if you play in JSFL, remember to make your Week 4 picks for one person who will be voted off and 4 people who you think will be safe at the end of the game. Anything else we need to discuss?
I think we covered it.
All right.
We're looking forward to that next episode on Wednesday. We'll be back with our recap. Have a good one.